Hello everyone, welcome to HillBro, and today the weather is not the best. It's a little bit rainy, a little bit cloudy, and kind of cold. And so today we are actually working in the shop. But before we start, walking in here just reminded me of something. And I have a question for all of you guys. Okay, do you guys have any unknown heroes in your life? I want to share with you a little unknown hero of mine. The other day, my family was blessed with our 5th child into the family. A little boy, my second boy. My oldest is a boy, 3 girls, and then my youngest is a boy. So we're happy to have 2 boys, and my oldest son is happy to have a little sidekick. So we're super excited, and everything is good and healthy with the boy and with mommy. And so couldn't be more grateful for that. But because the past couple days of us being away, and I haven't been able to keep up on the garbage. So this little garbage pail, normally on a certain day of the week, I have to roll it out to the street, and like any garbage man would come in and pick it up. This garbage was full, had garbage bags poking up like this with the lid open, and it was sitting on the side of the shop. I didn't put it out to the road. I knew in my mind I needed to get garbage out, but that night couldn't get it out, and in the morning couldn't get here early enough to get it out there. But when I came in the morning, I saw that that garbage pail had been emptied. The garbage man saw that there was garbage there, came and got it, took it all the way out to the street, put it in his truck. I don't even know who this man is, and emptied it for us. And so I am grateful for unknown heroes in my life. Whoever you are, thank you. That was greatly appreciated. Anyways, that just came to mind. And if you guys have unknown heroes in your life, share it. But today we are in the shop again because we have the MRZR that we picked up in California the other day. Had some fun rides down in Nevada and in Utah, and we are going to compare it with a regular RZR. It took some time to get it back here. Actually, when we brought it back to St. Anthony, it had a few issues. We had to replace the wheel bearings on it, not a big deal, but also the clutches were flat wore out on that machine. Both the secondary and primary clutches are wore out. We were able to rebuild the secondary, but the primary needed to be replaced, and that was the hard part because it's very difficult to find military or MRZR parts. We were able to go a roundabout way. Polaris makes a diesel Ranger, and apparently the diesel Ranger primary clutch worked on the MRZR. Now I think the spring and the weights might be a little different. We're still tuning that in, but anyways, got it going back here at the shop, and we are going to kind of doing a side-by-side comparison to a regular Polaris RZR XP. This one is a Polaris RZR XP4. So what's the difference between a standard civilian RZR and an MRZR? Well, first off with the name, M stands for military, so MRZR, military vehicle. D4, I'd imagine D stands for the model number, because I know Polaris has made a few models of RZRs for the military. And 4 would be very similar to an XP4. Stands for 4 seats. But aside from that, I think some of the main things are pretty obvious. The MRZR comes standard with a lot of aftermarket goodies, like a heavy-duty front bumper, which I understand sometimes these machines are just used for pushing old equipment and parts around. Comes with a front receiver on the bumper. Not super uncommon for, you know, utility vehicles. Very handy though if you want to put a winch or tow equipment, or even a hitch to move things around backwards. Obviously also the back bumper has a receiver, as well as these cool D-ring shackles, heavy duty, used for pulling. In fact, we put these to use during our trip to California to pick this up. We stopped in Mesquite to go ride a little bit. We had a couple four-wheelers in this machine, and One of the four-wheelers we were riding with actually broke down at the bottom of a deep canyon with switchbacks. And my four-wheeler, we tried, actually could not pull that four-wheeler up the trail. Had plenty of power, my four-wheeler, but it just couldn't get the grip. And so we hooked this guy up to that four-wheeler that was stuck, and it pulled it up that canyon switchback, steep canyon switchback, like it was butter. So you can tell it's built for utility purposes, and it does serve that well. This cage is actually designed to fold and be more compact, so that when they're transporting it, I don't know, I suppose in airplanes, helicopters, or even in a truck, that they could just compact it more, make it easier to transport. But before they sell these things to the general public, they actually weld these clamps that unlock it twofold. Kind of sucks, and by the looks of it, it's not that, wouldn't be that hard to make it foldable again. But they do make you sign a waiver to not do it. So you probably get in trouble if you did. I don't know, maybe you wouldn't. Something else that pokes out that is different on these MRZRs are these D-ring shackles, front and back, both sides of the machine. Obviously, they're probably used for transportation, airlifting them by helicopter, or airdropping them, strapping parachutes to those, or even just strapping them down while transporting them on trains or trucks. But I think those would be pretty cool to have. I actually find myself using these running boards a lot, not because I'm standing up here riding it like I'm cool, like some secret operation guy. No, but actually when I'm sitting in this machine, I actually find myself resting my foot right there. Part of the reason why I'm able to put my foot out is because you will also notice that there are no doors. You got to be more careful on a machine like this, but I do like, especially how it's set up to be utility. It makes you feel like, I don't know, you're in a safari or something like that. While sitting in this machine and having the chance to drive this around a bit, I actually like these seats a lot better than your stock standard RZR seats. You've got street blinkers. They're on a rocker switch instead of like a steering wheel switch. Horn, winch, in and out, and lights, normal lights, four-wheel drive. And this guy, this switch, I think is what they would call a blackout switch. And so this switch allows you to operate the machine normally, power everything, except it will kill all the lights. In the night where you don't want lights, you can hit that switch, all the lights cut out, but everything operates as normal. This little switch here was another switch. I believe that was the infrared switch. Obviously something military doesn't want you to have. Also, you will notice that this thing does not have a normal key. That is just a little switch. It doesn't come out like a key does. But you cannot start it without hitting the master switch underneath the seat. So this would be all off, and then that would be all on. And that noise you just heard when I flicked it on was actually the fuel pump. And then you'd come here, and being a diesel, you'd turn this on. Oh, fuel pump again. And I've actually had this machine running, and so it's not needing to warm up glow plugs, but just like a regular diesel truck. It has those little squiggly lines that say the glow plugs are warming up and don't start the machine until that light turns off, like a regular diesel truck. You want the glow plugs to warm up before you start the motor, and then you got to let these diesels warm up just like you would if the truck, especially a Power Stroke, in the cold. Stinking cat. Anytime I sit down, this cat has to come sit on my lap. She thinks that I'm sitting down to pet her. All right, you gotta go. Go, go, go. Stop it. I bet you can hear her. Sounds like a stinking tiger. wannabe Tiger. All right, go please. I gotta do this video. Ah. They come with heavy duty beadlock wheels. Pretty cool styling. Actually, I think it matches this machine pretty well. It's really big, heavy duty storage bed. Gross, 1,500 pounds. Of course, that means the occupants as well, but you know, let's say each person weighs about 200 pounds, 200 times 4, 800 pounds, which leaves you with about 700 pounds in the back, which honestly, you'd probably get away with like 1,000 pounds of gear back here. I mean, it's heavy duty enough for me to even jump on the tailgate. Just like a standard RZR, it's got an access hatch here to work on the motor. It's actually a lot bigger, a lot more accessible to parts, like your air filter is just right there. Working on this wouldn't be all that big of a deal, but when you open this up, you can see that is not your typical 2-cylinder motor. Yeah, this machine is diesel instead of gas, which is perfect for utility purposes, traveling long distances in the desert, hunting, or whatever you need to do working out in harsh conditions. This thing would actually do pretty good. You do have something different going on here. On a regular RZR, you have intakes on both sides of the bed of the machine. This side acting for intakes for the clutch. I believe both of these are cold intakes to the clutch, and then you have one right here that is hot air exit, and it exits right in front of the motor. And then this other side is for the intake for the motor, which would then go through the air filter and then into the motor. This thing here, though, I can't quite figure out what's going on. Let's take this top piece off, kind of see what we're looking at, and see if we can't figure it out a little bit. It looks like you've got 2 intakes, and from what I can tell, this one is the intake to your motor, and this one is the intake to your clutch. And so normally air comes pushing in through here, helps feed the intakes. And if you look under here, this one being the cold air to the clutch, that would mean that one back there would be the hot air out. But what I can't understand is this. That hot air actually does not expel in front of the motor like on a regular RZR, but in fact comes to a little vent on this side of the bed. If you look inside those vents, right in there is a fan. But what I don't understand is this is the hot side. And so either that fan is pulling hot air, which you don't normally do because you're getting a lot of hot air and belt dust coming through that fan. But also these vents, these gills, are bent in the direction where it would feed cold air into it. So it's almost like you've got 2 cold airs pushing into the clutch with no hot air escape. I don't understand what Polaris is trying to accomplish here. If any of you guys know, please tell me, you know, comment down in the comments and let me know what's going on here. While I was looking at the clutches, I noticed that the rear shock of the MRZR and the rear shock of the RZR are completely different. The RZR is a lot longer, same with the trailing arm. It's almost 10 inches longer than the trailing arm of the MRZR. So I was just sitting here after looking at the shocks and the trailing arms of both these machines, and I was looking up the specs of this MRZR on the internet, and they are only claiming 12 inches of travel on the front and back of this machine, where a normal RZR is about 13 up front and 18 in back. Why did Polaris build an MRZR instead of an M General or a military general? Because it seems like all the specs from a general and the utility purposes of a general versus a RZR is more of what they tried to do with the MRZR. To me, why didn't you just build a military general instead of put the time into making an MRZR? I'm not an engineer at Polaris. I'm not in the military. Again, if anyone can answer those questions, leave a comment, let me know. Because me personally, I would have just built a military general. Well, let's go ahead and see what these things can do on the dyno. Well, we got the Polaris RZR XP, the normal XP 1000 up on the dyno. I don't expect any major horsepowers, it's just a stock RZR XP, but just so we can get a comparison of what a stock one does versus the diesel MRZR. Well, we've done a few dyno runs. For some reason, this computer is not saving the dyno runs on the graph. It's saving it everywhere else. So I can go back to previous runs and then pull them up and compare. I can't save it on the graph for some reason. And anyways, of course, the dyno company is not available on the weekends. I can tell that this RZR here behind me that we just ran, just regular XP 1000 non-turbo, running 90 horsepower at this elevation, which is 5,000 feet, which sounds about right. When they're claiming, I think they're claiming like 107 horsepower normally. Let's throw the MRZR on the dyno and just see how it compares. So, not really much of a machine to dyno. It sure is smoky. So you can see three numbers here. The blue one is the regular RZR, but you can't hardly see it. So the orange one is the MRZR, and then the purple one is also another RZR run. So you can see that this thing actually is pushing 55 horsepower at this elevation, which is about right because they're claiming 65 horsepower. And again, the clutch may not be completely proper, being an aftermarket clutch for this machine that hasn't been dialed in. And then the RZR's right at 91 horsepower, which is about right, this elevation, non-turbo. So I don't know, kind of fun to see that these little diesels don't make a ton of horsepower, but they do make a lot of torque. And it's kind of fun to see an MRZR on a dyno too. Haven't seen that before. I wish my graph was working better, but there you have it. 55 horsepower on the MRZR at 5,000 feet. We need a set of guns.
Yeah.
Rolling coal. If any one of you are coming to Southeast Idaho, or even any of the locals who are more curious about other places to ride in this area, check out Steve Adams or the Yellowstone Divide Trail System website. This particular machine is likely to be stationed mostly in St. Anthony, as well as Atomic City, which is in the middle of the desert of Idaho. Atomic City being named after the first nuclear reactor in the world out in that area. Be sure to check out HillBro.com, some of our new parts and products and merchandise. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.